Hello, and welcome. I'm so glad you found your way here tonight. This is your moment to let the world outside fade, to feel the warmth of stillness wrap around you like a soft blanket, and to drift into a story woven from starlight and snow. Tonight, we'll journey to a land where the sky dances with ribbons of emerald and sapphire, where the air hums with ancient songs, and where the quiet of winter holds stories as deep as the northern lights themselves. It's a place of crackling fires, of reindeer moving like shadows across the tundra, and of voices that carry the wisdom of generations in their melodies. A place where sleep comes not with silence, but with the gentle pull of a lullaby sung by the heavens. So settle in, let your breath slow, and feel the weight of the day lift from your shoulders. And when you're ready, we'll step into the story, beneath a sky alive with light. Close your eyes now, and let me carry you northward, across vast frozen seas and ancient pine forests, to where the world grows quiet beneath endless twilight skies. Here, in the far reaches of the Nordic lands, where winter nights stretch like gentle eternities, and the Aurora borealis dances above glacial peaks, there lived a people who understood the language of light itself. The Sami followed the reindeer herds across tundra that sparkled like crushed pearls under starlight. Their traditional Kåtas, tent-like dwellings, scattered across the landscape like sleeping spirits wrapped in reindeer hide and dreams. Among them was an old woman named Sanna, whose grandmother's grandmother had been a keeper of the ancient songs, those melodies that could call the lights down from the heavens and weave them in stories that would lull even the most restless souls to sleep. Sanna's hair was silver as moonbeams on snow, braided with ribbons the color of winter berries. Her eyes held the depth of fjords, reflecting decades of northern lights that had painted themselves across her memories like brushstrokes of liquid starlight. Every evening, as the sun disappeared for its long winter slumber, the people of her community would gather around the central fire pit, their faces glowing amber in the flickering warmth, breath visible in small clouds that danced upward like tiny spirits returning to the sky. On this particular night, the air was still and expectant, as if the very atmosphere was holding its breath in anticipation. The stars above seemed brighter than usual, pulsing gently like a vast heartbeat against the velvet darkness. A young mother named Elsa sat near the fire, cradling her restless infant daughter, Astrid. The baby had been fussing for days, unable to settle into peaceful sleep, her tiny fists clenched against some invisible worry that seemed to have followed her from the womb. "The little one cannot find her rest," Elsa whispered to Sanna, rocking the bundle gently. "It is as if she searches for something in her dreams but cannot reach it." Sanna nodded knowingly, her weathered hands reaching out to stroke the baby's downy head. She had seen this before. Souls who arrived in this world still hearing echoes of the place they had come from, still yearning for the cosmic lullabies that had once sung them through the stars. "Tonight," Sanna said softly, her voice carrying the cadence of ancient wisdom, I will tell her the story of how the northern lights came to be, and perhaps she will remember the song that called her here. The fire crackled and settled, sending sparks spiraling upward like tiny prayers. Around them, the community drew closer, children leaning against their parents' knees, elders pulling fur-lined hoods over their heads, everyone settling into the timeless ritual of story and sleep. Sanna began to hum, a melody so old it seemed to emerge from the very bones of the earth, a tune that had been passed down through countless generations of mothers and grandmothers, each one adding her own breath to its eternal rhythm. As her voice rose into the crystalline air, something magical began to happen. High above them, ribbons of green light started to shimmer across the sky, as if the Aurora itself was responding to her call. Long ago, Sanna began, her words weaving between the notes of her humming. When the world was young and the boundary between earth and sky was thin as morning mist, there lived a goddess named Revna, whose tears became the northern lights. The child in Elsa's arms grew still, her small fists unclenching as if she recognized something familiar in the cadence of Sanna's voice. Revna was the daughter of the north wind, and the essence of winter itself, Sanna continued, watching as the lights above them began to pulse more brightly, painting the snow-covered landscape in ethereal greens and blues. She dwelt in a palace made of crystallized Aurora, where the walls sang with the music of the spheres, and every footstep rang like silver bells across floors of polished ice. The fire settled deeper into its embers, and the assembled community felt themselves being drawn into the story, like travelers following a familiar path through a beloved forest. Revna's greatest joy was in creating dreams for the sleeping children of Midgard, the world of humans. Every night, she would weave tapestries of light across the sky, each thread a different dream, each color a different kind of hope. Above them, the aurora intensified, ribbons of light dancing across the star-scattered sky like silk scarves blown by celestial winds. The baby Astrid's breathing deepened, her tiny features relaxing into the peaceful expression of approaching sleep. But one winter, darker and longer than any before, a great sorrow fell upon the land. The children below had forgotten how to dream peacefully. War and hardship had filled their sleeping minds with shadows, and Revna's beautiful dream tapestries could no longer reach them through the veil of their troubles. Sanna's voice grew softer, more melodic, as if she was beginning to sing the very words themselves. Around the fire, heads began to nod, eyes growing heavy with the weight of deep contentment. Revna wept for the children, and her tears fell like stars from her palace in the sky. But instead of landing in the snow, they hung suspended in the heavens, creating rivers of luminous color that danced and swayed with the rhythm of her sorrow. The northern lights pulsed overhead, as if responding to the story, and several members of the community looked up in wonder, feeling as though they were witnessing the very phenomenon being described. The god Odin, seeing Revna's heartbreak, approached her in her palace of light. "Your tears do more good than you know," he told her gently. They have become a lullaby written in light itself, a song that speaks directly to the sleeping soul. Elsa noticed that her daughter had finally fallen into deep, peaceful sleep, her breathing synchronized with the gentle rhythm of Sanna's storytelling. Odin explained that the dancing lights, Revna's luminous tears, were reaching the children after all, not through their conscious dreams, but through something deeper. They were teaching their spirits the ancient song of peace, the cosmic melody that all souls knew before birth and would remember again after death. A soft wind stirred through the camp, carrying with it the scent of snow and pine, and causing the aurora above to ripple like water disturbed by a gentle stone. From that night forward, whenever the northern lights appeared, they carried with them Revna's lullaby, a song without words that spoke directly to the heart. Children would sleep more deeply, troubled minds would find rest, and even the sick and weary would feel their burdens lighten as the celestial music washed over them. Sanna's voice began to fade into humming again, the melody intertwining with the soft crackling of the dying fire and the almost imperceptible whisper of snow beginning to fall. They say that on the clearest nights, when the aurora dances brightest, you can still hear Revna's lullaby if you listen with your soul instead of your ears. It sounds like starlight given voice, like the breath of sleeping angels, like the very first song that was ever sung when the world began to dream. The baby Astrid slept deeply now, a peaceful smile playing at the corners of her tiny mouth, and around the fire, the entire community had settled into that drowsy, contented state that comes just before the deepest sleep. And so, Sanna whispered, her voice becoming one with the wind and the gentle sound of falling snow. Whenever you see the northern lights dancing across the winter sky, know that Revna is still singing her lullaby, still weaving dreams of peace for all the children of the earth. Above them, the aurora reached its peak intensity, cascading across the heavens in waves of green and blue and shimmering silver, as if the goddess herself was acknowledging the story and blessing all who heard it with the gift of profound rest. One by one, the members of the community began to drift toward their warm kåtas, carrying with them the echo of Sanna's lullaby and the image of the dancing lights. Children were carried by sleepy parents, elders supported each other with gentle hands, and the fire was banked carefully to burn through the night. Elsa looked down at her daughter, finally at peace in her arms, and whispered a thanks to Sanna before carrying the sleeping child to their own dwelling. As the last person disappeared into their shelter, Sanna remained by the dying fire, watching the aurora continue its ancient dance across the star-filled sky. She hummed softly to herself, adding her voice to the eternal lullaby that had been sung since the beginning of time. The snow fell more steadily now, muffling all sound except for the gentle whisper of wind through the pines and the distant, almost musical crackling of the northern lights themselves. In her Kåta, little Astrid slept deeper than she ever had before, and in her dreams she danced among ribbons of light with a goddess who wept tears of beauty and sang lullabies that turned into stars. across the tundra, reindeer lifted their heads to watch the aurora, their breath visible in small puffs that seemed to join the celestial dance. And somewhere in the distance, a wolf howled once, not in loneliness, but in harmony with the cosmic song that painted itself across the winter sky. The northern lights continued their eternal performance, singing Revna's lullaby to all who dwelt beneath the vast Nordic sky, carrying dreams of peace to every sleeping soul, and reminding them that they were held always in the gentle embrace of starlight and story, of ancient wisdom and infinite love.